Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to be going over some banana diseases, and due to time constriction, I'm only going to be going over the main players. So by far the worst disease to hit the banana was Panama disease, which is also called Fusarium wilt. And this disease is fungal in nature and lives in the soil and infects the banana plant. The fungus is called Fusarium oxysporum, and the disease is classified into four strains or races according to the variety of bananas it infects. Race 1 infects ladyfinger, sugar, and ducacy plants, but not our beloved Cavendish. Race 2 generally infects cooking bananas like Bluego and Blue Java. Race 3 infects only Heliconia plant species and not our banana. And race 4, which is definitely the worst of them all, affects most banana varieties, including ladyfingers, ducacy plants, and our Cavendish. There are two important strains of this race, which is the tropical race 4 and the subtropical race 4. The two subtypes of race 4 break up into tropical and subtropical. As their names predict, tropical race 4 appears into Cavendish plants that are grown into more tropical regions, and subtropical race 4 is showing up in more southeast regions such as northern Wales, Western Australia, and Queensland, which all of those areas have been under quarantine for some time now. The big problem with Panama disease is that there's no means of curing the disease, so the only methods we have is prevention. All chemical, cultural, and biological means to try to fight the disease has pretty much been futile. So how does Panama disease affect banana plants? Well, the disease blocks the banana plant's vascular system, cutting off the supply of water and nutrients, and this ultimately causes the plant to wilt and die. On the plus side, the disease is not transferred to the fruit, and there is no human risk at all. Young and old plants are both infected by the disease, and symptoms are quite disgusting. The external symptoms of the plant include leaf yellowing, wilting, and leaves and stems splitting. Symptoms are more obvious at particular times of the year and crop stages. Environmental stress, such as when conditions are too wet or too dry, too hot or too cold, increase the development of the disease. The energy required to produce a bunch of bananas can also increase the symptom development. For example, if a plant may look healthy, but then it starts to emerge some of its banana bunches, and all of a sudden, all of these disgusting symptoms start to show. When the fungus blocks the water conducting the tissue to the stem, all the symptoms progress dramatically, and this is when farmers typically see their crop start is dying. The leaf edges then turn brown, and as the lower leaves die, they wilt and collapse, forming what can be described as a skirt around the plant. The younger leaves may remain green and upright. Stem splitting may usually occur at the base of the plant and is typically 2 or 3 layers thick. However, the later stages of the disease, the splitting can extend further up and deeper into the stem. Internal symptoms of the disease include discoloration of the vascular tissue in the corm and the stem. This discoloration can range in color from yellow to red through to dark brown or black, depending on how long the plant has been infected. While there are distinctive internal signs of the disease, it is very important that growers do not cut or remove plants that have been suspected of being infected by the disease. Well, Panama disease, including the tropical race 4 strain, is a soil-borne fungal disease. This means that the fungus can spread via infected soil, water, plant material, and other biosecurity matter. Anything that moves soil, such as machinery and equipment, vehicles, tools, clothing, and footwear, can carry and spread the disease. It can also spread between plants via root-to-root contact and from parent plants to suckers. Even dead infected plants leave behind spores that can live in soil for decades and infect any future banana crops. If any attempt to remove or destroy affected plants or cut plants to inspect them are attempted, it only increases the risk of spreading the disease, which only adds to its success. The disease can be carried by other plants as well, including some common weeds, which can harbor and spread the disease without showing symptoms. Animals and insects, such as the banana weevil borer, have also been identified as vectors that can spread the disease. To add to even more success, removing or cutting a plant increases the risk of spreading the disease and blocks all areas around the property from spreading any other crop. Cutting an infected plant triggers the fungus to produce spores which can survive in the soil for decades. If a susceptible banana plant is grown near the infected plant, the spores present in the soil would germinate, infect the plant, and kill it. Interfering with the plant may also reduce the chance of obtaining a quality test sample for any further research to be done. Considered to be one of the main export banana post-harvest diseases. Crown rot symptoms affect tissues of the so-called crown which unite the peduncles. The rot is not visible when the bananas are boxed, and symptoms generally appear after maritime shipping. The rot begins with mycelial development on the surface of the crown, followed by internal development. The results from the development in the crown is a result of several common fungi that constitute a fungal complex and leads to the softening and blackening of the tissues at the site of the wound. The role of the bacteria in the complex has not yet been confirmed by detailed research, but the symptoms that do develop occur so most rapidly during the time of fruit ripening. Crown rot affects fruit quality because of the development of the necrosis on the fruit, and it also triggers early ripening of the banana during shipping. This is why this disease is so devastating to the banana industry. Fruit shipments are sometimes received where almost all the boxes of bananas ended up being spoiled. This is especially bad when it causes bad relations with small banana farmers and their consumers. Banana bunchy top virus is the next virus I would like to go over. So, what is it? Well, it's a viral disease and it was first identified in Fiji in 1891 and has spread around the world since then. Like many viruses, BBTV was named after the symptoms seemed, where the infected plants are stunted and have bunchy leaves at the top. The disease is transmitted from plant to plant in tropical regions of the world by banana aphids. These bugs feed on Heliconia and flowering ginger, which are actually an important factor in controlling the disease. There are no resistant varieties, so controlling the spread of the vectors and plant materials are the only management methods for controlling the virus. When farmers think of starting a plantation, they take great care in choosing a location that does not house either of these two other hosts. Combining the three possible hosts in close proximity creates optimal conditions to the virus to spread. These little aphids contract and spread the virus through eating the banana plants. Once the aphids has fed at an infected plant, it can hold and transmit that virus for up to 2 weeks. In this time, and this time resets at each time the aphid feeds from a diseased plant. So you can see how the little buggers can cause a lot of damage quite quickly. The name of the disease comes from the symptoms which occurs in older plants in which the new leaves are produced are narrow and normal yellow and flat which causes a bunchy appearance at the top of the tree. If any fruit is produced, which is typically unusual, it will be deformed. Sadly, our beloved Cavendish banana is more susceptible to contracting this virus than any other species of banana. The last disease I wanted to go over was black sigatoka disease, which is also called leaf spot disease of banana plants, caused by, you guessed it, yet another fungus. The disease is a black leaf streak which is comprised of a cluster of three closely related fungi. Plants with leaves damaged by the disease may have up to 50% lower yields of fruit, and control can take up to 50 sprays a year. This is both extremely costly to farmers and puts a lot of chemicals into the soils that otherwise didn't need to be there. Most infections can start on the underside of the leaf. The symptoms start as small specks that become streaks running parallel to the leaf veins. These streaks aggregate and eventually form spots that coalesce and form a chlorotic halo and eventually merge to cause excessive necrosis. Now, I haven't read any literature on this, but I have learned most diseases that stricken banana plants today are fungal based, and this example here shows a symbiotic relationship between three different fungi that all work together to meet a common goal. One possible solution for our little banana problem may be to experiment with invasive fungi species that could act as a protector for the banana rather than a parasite. But of course, introducing any sort of invasive species into a new ecosystem could have dire consequences in itself. So, a lot of experimentation need to be done first.